Listen.
I've been hearing a lot lately about men don't talk, but in my experience, men do talk, just people aren't listening. So it's going to be me and a group of blokes discussing our struggles and victories through life. Warning, there may be some bad language, so apologies to all the moms, especially my own. Let's get going.
Listen.
Hello, this is Black Country Blokes chewing the fat.
Listen.
I've been hearing a lot lately about men don't talk, but in my experience, men do talk, just people aren't listening. So it's going to be me and a group of blokes discussing our struggles and victories through life. Warning, there may be some bad language, so apologies to all the moms, especially my own. Let's get going.
Listen.
Having you guys, sorry about the confusion, but this is me, Kev Dillon, and Lee Cabin for the Black Country Blokes, and today we're joined by Lydia. Lydia, thank you ever so much for coming on.
Hello, thank you for having me. Very exciting.
We're going to be talking about life on the streets and how easy it is to get there and how difficult it is to get from there, and having a life with less judgment. But we're going to be talking about all that and plenty more in 2 seconds. But as always, we're going to talk about our gratitude list. As always, I've got plenty of stuff to be grateful for. I'm grateful for everyone who donated money to Big Patrick's family. And, when in times of tragedy, how wonderful the community is around you when you can all put your hands in your pocket and raise money. I've been run down lately, as I said on the last show, feeling poorly, but I'm actually starting to feel well. And for that, I'm very grateful. Oh, Paul, what are you grateful for?
Hopefully this going out live. I'm debating whether it is at the moment, but hopefully you're listening in. But yeah, I'm grateful for family this week. We had and for the boxing club, we had a great boxing course up here this weekend that your dad run. And yeah, it was a nice weekend for something I was dreading a bit, just because it's a weekend you've got to kind of give away. We had a good laugh, and yeah, we did it, and it was good.
Brilliant. Lydia, what are you grateful for?
Yeah, I'm going to mirror that, really. I'm very grateful for my family. So we've had a newborn. So my nephew's about 2 months old now. He was quite poorly over the weekend, but he's back home from hospital, and he's doing really well, and he's beautiful. So I'm very, very grateful to have my lovely, supportive family.
And that's why I always like to start with gratitude, because we can send ourselves down a rabbit hole of thinking the world's out to get us. And you've got to remind yourself you're having a bad day, you're having a bad week, you're having a bad month. It doesn't mean you're having a bad life. So just hang on in there, guys, because these too shall pass, and good days are just waiting for you. So, Lydia, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yes, so my name's Lydia. I'm an ASH project worker at an organisation called Sifa Fireside, which is very difficult to spell and very difficult to say phonetically on the phone. But yes, Sifa Fireside, it's a day centre based in Digbeth, Birmingham. And it's a centre supporting people who experience homelessness or, who are vulnerably housed, aged 25 and plus.
Vulnerably housed, what does that mean?
So there's quite a few kind of different ways of looking at homelessness. So there's kind of the maybe the more obvious one, the more known one, rough sleepers. So people that are kind of entrenched, you might see them in sleeping bags or bedding down in the streets. But there's other kind of things as well that sometimes get missed. So there's some kind of examples. So if you're statutory homeless, often means that you've approached the council where you're living isn't suitable. But there's other kind of things as well. So there's kind of like hidden homelessness. So that's people that are stuck in hostels for like 2 years plus. People that are sofa surfing, and people that are kind of precariously housed. There's issues with like landlords, dodgy landlords, you hear about that quite often, and just people that are just trying to hold on, really. So there's many different kind of forms of homelessness.
You say holding on.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us are experiencing that at the moment, the cost of living, and every time you go into a supermarket, something's gone up, and that and it's not even like treading water at the moment, is it? You feel like you're just gasping for air, waiting for a break. And for these poor buggers, and like we've worked like with Black Country Women's Aid, people in refuge, these poor people, it's like, you know, when you go on holiday and you've left your phone charger, oh, it's the end of the world. These poor buggers have had to leave on a split notice, and they've left everything behind.
Yeah.
And how dreadful that is.
Yeah.
And these people on the streets, you're looking at them in a wet or a soiled bag, in wet socks, and all their belongings around them. That could be their pet dog they care for, or any photos, memorabilia they've managed to cling on to. How tough that must be. I mean, they're out every day of the year, aren't they? But this time of year, when it's wet and cold, it's even harder, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, we do have things. Well, I say the council do put things in like this SWEP, so it's severe weather emergency protocol. So you know, if the temperatures reach a certain level and it's actually dangerous to be on the streets, there are provisions to support people. But unfortunately, again, that is kind of a temporary basis. So I know a lot of people kind of, obviously, like you've said, leading up to Christmas, especially, people do start to think about what more can be done, and that's really positive. That's a good thing to come out of it.
I mean, the worst thing, especially in this country, no matter where if you're on your holidays, once you're wet here, you don't get dry.
Yeah.
At least, you know, we have the luxury of going home, putting your jumper on the radiator or whatever. But when you've got to stay wet, oh, isn't it miserable?
Yeah. Yeah. And it stays with you as well, doesn't it? It massively impacts your mood. Yeah, it's a lot. So with the day centre, kind of what we hope to do is to be those kind of that opening space where people can come in, and even if like, just something small like a change of socks or, you know, accessing breakfast, if that's the first meal you've had, that kind of thing, that's what we aim to do, is to be the kind of one-stop shop almost, to provide not only those immediate needs but the kind of other things that come with it. So, you know, things like maybe the emotional trauma they've experienced. It's the idea is that we're that hub in Birmingham, because we're for Birmingham wide, it's not just kind of set locations, just to kind of be that place where we can signpost and refer on and get all of those specialist services involved.
But you say with trauma, I never met any, when we were at school, and it's what do you want to be? I want to be a boxer, a footballer, a builder, an accountant, national. I never met anyone who wanted to be homeless or be an addict. Yeah. You know, that's the circumstance that life has put upon people.
It is, and homelessness can happen to anybody. So anyone can kind of slip into that for a lot of reasons. Kind of, you know, your breakdown of your relationship, unemployment. Again, like I've mentioned, maybe rogue landlords. There's quite a lot of fleeing domestic abuse. So there's a lot really that can happen to anybody. So that's the kind of message to drive home as well, isn't it? That, you know, this isn't choice. It isn't a lifestyle choice, as some may have commented on recently. No one's chosen to fall into that.
And you're seeing how you're seeing a part of someone's life, aren't you? Yeah. It's like when you see Arnold Schwarzenegger, you're seeing the muscles. You're not seeing how hard he had to work to get the muscles. Yeah. That's the happy side of it. But you're not seeing all the sad things that have happened to this person to leave them where they are at this particular time, in the wet, cold, and desperate. Yeah. And it's really humbling as well when we do get the opportunities to sit and chat to the clients and hear some of their incredible stories. It is really humbling. And there's also, we're quite fortunate that, you know, where we are at Sifa, there's things that we can put in place, such as, you know, like job clubs, helping with computer literacy, helping with English classes. That's kind of how it runs really at Sifa. We're almost split into kind of 3 frontline teams. So the first team is the homeless intervention team. So that's that we're open from 9 a.m. onwards, and that's where, you know, clients can come and access their immediate needs. So there's hot meals, there's showers, washing machine service, clean clothes, and that's where clients can really access their immediate needs. So they can see the nurse there, the Birmingham City Council housing advisors, and signpost into services. And then throughout the day, we've kind of split it a little bit. So then moving forward from 10:30 onwards is more kind of focused on prevention. So that's the team that I work for, the Adult Support Hub. And like I say, we sit under prevention, and the aim is for kind of like tenancy sustainment. So we would look then to help clients who are precariously housed to sustain their tenancy, to hopefully prevent from experiencing homelessness. And that's kind of then where we would look at things like their well-being,
mental health, if there's any substance misuse, and just kind of refer on and get those services involved. And a lot of it is about empowering clients themselves, and it's also about advocating for their needs sometimes, and helping them have that voice and that platform to say, actually, this is what I need at this time.
Empowering people, because as you say, when you're vulnerable, you've lost your spark, you've lost, and this paperwork, it's so daunting. And how, once you've lost your own value, well, how am I going to get a job? Once you get in that spiral, that's why you need advocacy, to have someone to talk on behalf of you, saying you're not a bad person, you're just going through a bad circumstance, or just because you've done bad things doesn't mean you've got to continue to do bad things. And it's having that lifeline, isn't that beacon of love that can hopefully shed a light on the situation.
Yeah, of course. And there's a lot of kind of things. So what we would do is, like, for example, social workers. If someone requires a social worker, we'll make that referral and we'll help the client to engage with them. Substance misuse, we use Change, Grow, Live quite often, which is a good service in Birmingham. And it's kind of just finding that level, so what clients want as well, because there's no point implementing, you need X, Y, Z. It's got to come from the client themselves and where they want to be.
Are you seeing more, because of the cost of living, are you seeing more within your prevention team now, more around people not being able to afford a rent, which obviously leads to disgruntled landlords as well as renters? Then you see more of that just because of cost of living.
Yeah, definitely seen an increase in that, and things like people needing to access food banks has increased quite a lot. There's a good scheme called Your Pantry, so it's kind of, you can go and get your weekly food shop, and it depends on the site, but it can be like £3. And again, the idea is to kind of, as much as is feasible, to steer away from things like food banks and trying to, again, a bit more empowerment. But those kind of things have had to become a thing because of the cost of living crisis. So it's definitely felt. And I think as well, there's generally kind of an assumption where if you're employed or this and that, you're going to be cushy, you're going to be okay, and that's not always the case either. Like, everyone from time to time will need a helping hand, and I think that's definitely what's come out of this as well, the cost of living crisis, that again, it can affect everybody.
I think people are realising that as well. As money's got tight and people are trying to move around, there's more people on that borderline of being homeless. You kind of one missed rent payment from there.
I mean, do you have a lot of when people have come out of like prison or other establishments? Because when you come out of jail, it's so hard. They're saying don't be a criminal and don't this, but then they've set you free with no money, no lodgings, no friends, no this, and it's so hard to stay clean and stay law abiding when you've got so little. And it's true, it's a valid point. We do have some people, they have got offences. Obviously they're free from judgment, attending Sifa. It's about kind of helping them to re-engage with society, really, and get involved in different services. So Spring Housing is quite a good one that we have a good connection with, and again, it's offering accommodation, it's offering kind of wellbeing support, and a lot. So with our recovery team as well, which is the third frontline team, their kind of role is that journey to independence. So kind of developing life skills, again, like I mentioned, like job club and English classes, but they've also got a lot on kind of men's support group, music and art therapy, and like you say, it's based on kind of, it's geared towards recovery and then obviously regaining society, rejoining society again. Well, like, your support groups are great. So you need something for everyone, don't you? Some people can sit around and have a chat. Some people need to do woodwork. Some people need to have a sing along. Some people, I think more avenues we've got to getting people better. Surely it's got to be better, hasn't it? And I think when you've got like-minded souls, or you've got people with lived experience, then it's not like a Saved by the School, a Saved by the Bell after school special. You've got real people going, don't worry, Bert, I've been there. It does get easier. And you've got to be trustworthy. You've got to give trust to get trust, and we can get there together.
And we've got some really nice new incentives as well. So we're working with Geese Theatre at the moment. So they've worked in prison settings, and they're obviously based at the day centre at the moment. And it's all about kind of creative outlets as well. And a lot of those people have got lived experience. We do also have a lot of kind of volunteer roles and peer mentor roles as well of people that have got lived experience. And that's very beneficial because it's someone to connect to as well, isn't it? Like you say, you've not just got sympathy for what's going on, you've got empathy then. And it's proved really beneficial for the clients.
I heard someone say once, someone read on here, I can't remember who it was, the opposite of addiction is connection. And more things you can connect with, positive connections, easier it becomes.
Yeah. And a lot of kind of what we're there to do as well is to try and prevent that kind of, because I've mentioned trauma quite a lot for already, but it's trying to prevent that from people having to keep retelling their story and that kind of thing. So it's about, like I say, all coming together in one space to work out what is it that you need today.
Well, we've said that a lot with the mental health services. You go and tell Kev all about it, and you go, oh, great, and then you don't see Kev, and then you've got to tell Lee again, then you've got to go, and if you go, well, every time, it's when I choose to tell my story, as we're doing now, I can tell it because I feel comfortable, but when you're already in the trauma, and you're feeling vulnerable, and to have to keep going over it, it knocks you about every single time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So if you have got that mechanism, that structure of, fair play, you've said it, let's put a peg in it now. If we need to refer to it, it's in your notes. But we haven't got to make you keep saying it because it's physically and mentally hurting you.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
It is.
Yeah.
So I've had 12 rounds because it hurts just as much. And it's great having places like you because we have come in some ways so far with the kind, wonderful organisations who are giving food, giving shelter, giving blankets to people. But it's the higher ups who've got to start doing more now, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we need more laws changing. And I said to you downstairs, I was making you a lovely cup of coffee for saying
I'm still swinging on it. Cheers.
In the madness, in the lockdown, we found places for all of our homeless. And I believe in Scotland, every homeless has got the right to accommodation. But in England, we're so far behind. And when you see these derelict factories and you see these derelict houses and you see these, you think, well, sure, there's something we could be doing to making these into something where people can go and get dry, get washed, get sheltered.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot, I mean, obviously funding it is always quite a biggie, isn't it? Which, like you might have mentioned, sometimes it sits above us, doesn't it, in our decision making. But I think a lot of it is to invest in, the infrastructure that's already there, make these things happen, put the money into it. And the same as the kind of support services, because there is still a gap. There's still services where we need something to kind of slot in the middle. And things like, creating more roles for support workers that are able to do that, working alongside the councils and the landlords as well, and making sure that there's legitimate landlords and legitimate checks and people have got the rights and they're aware of their rights as well. So there's definitely a lot more to be done, but hopefully we can start seeing that.
I always think and people who say Maggie Thatcher with the right to buy. Which I like the idea. You've got the right to buy your thing, so then you go from working class to middle class. But on every house that was bought, there should have been houses built in place. And there is such massive waiting lists of council flats, council houses. And then, so I have to go and rent, and then you're ripped off and you haven't got a leg to stand on. And you become so desperate to get out of a situation necessarily. And then you get more and more in debt, you get more and more frightened, and then fear's a funny old bugger, isn't it? I know it's like the best friend of any mental health is loneliness. And when you're frightened, alone, and your world starts crumbling in, then you start getting desperate and you start doing things that you necessarily wouldn't normally do. Drink, drugs, as well as all the other catalogue of bad things. And before you know it, you're in the hole. And it's somewhere that you honestly believed you could never see yourself as being. But it could happen to anyone, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could happen. I mean, it's an addiction, isn't it? And it's almost like medicine for the soul for some people. If they're in destitute conditions, it's what they might turn to. So again, it's kind of putting that preventative in place, isn't it? And saying, look, what can we do? What can be done? But yeah, it is a very rewarding line of work, very humbling and very challenging as well. But yeah, it's Great organisation.
Do you see, like, from very young,
Hmm.
do you see many children in your organisation?
So with us, we're kind of aimed at 25 and above.
Yeah.
But there is an organisation just around the corner from us called St Basil's, and that's 25 and below. So you do see, I mean, we've had the occasion where, you know, someone will walk in and you'll have to say, oh, hang on, how old are you? And we still support them.
Yeah.
They can still access food and things like that. But it will just be a case of, right, we'll walk you around the corner. This is the best service for you. But yeah, you do see some situations for sure.
But, you know, if, like, you're a mommy or a daddy and you got your children who are under 25,
Yeah.
would that be you guys who looked at, or do you collaborate with different organisations?
Yeah, so like I said, we'd never turn anyone away. And similarly, so with our team, the ASH, the Adult Support Hub, we do a lot of outreach. So we go out into the communities, and it could be things like, you know, your local community hub, your local food pantry, your local job centre. We'll be based there, and we'll kind of give that advice and guidance. And a lot of the times families do approach us there, and they'll not necessarily be homeless, but they'll be in precarious housing. So there's various different issues which, you know, it's kind of on the cusp potentially, and it's things like knowing what services are around that will specifically help families, and a lot of that it is financial, it is kind of well-being, it's things like accessing, you know, the right health care. So that's something we've definitely come across, but we would never turn anybody away.
Well, one of the main reasons we started this podcast, I had to talk about mental health all them years ago. But there is so many wonderful organisations out there, but people don't know about them.
Yeah.
And I always think on, like, Black Country Radio or Midlands Today or whatever it is, Central News, there should be a segment on everything saying if you're homeless, if you know someone who's being human trafficked, if you've got a disability, every time a little segment saying, or where you're from, click on.
Yeah.
Because there's so much good out there, but you don't know about it.
Yeah. There's a great tool, and I'll be honest, I need to have a look for our local area, but there's a great tool in Birmingham. It's called Connect to Support, and you go on the website and you put in postcode, and it comes up with all the different kind of services. So it's still something that's, you know, in process. It always gets updated and works on, but it is a fantastic tool to kind of find what's going on and where.
What's that again?
Connect to Support. Yeah, so if you pop it into Google, it comes up, and it is very useful. Even in my kind of casework, because we also casework, I'm always on it. I probably say on a daily basis. And, you know, not being from Birmingham as well, when I first stepped into the role, I did so much research into what's around and created this spreadsheet, which thankfully we all use now. So it's shared amongst the organisation. And it's just kind of like, oh, so you need support financial. And then there's kind of like all your different financial options and immigration support, you know, domestic abuse support. So it's something that we're continuing to work on, but it's definitely been of use, especially for me. Black country lass.
So what would you say, like, someone who's, let's go through the three stages of homelessness. Say someone is on the street, or you've got someone who you know is on the street.
Yeah.
What would be the first advice that you would say to him or her?
Yeah. So there's kind of a few things. I mean, if you're comfortable to have a chat to that person, I mean, one of the biggest issues for people that are street homeless or experiencing homelessness is kind of that idea of just being neglected, of just people walking past you on the street, not even acknowledging you. I mean, often if someone stopped me and I've said, oh, hello, you okay? They'll be like, oh, thank you, you're the first person that stopped today. And it's just even that little thing, that social interaction goes a long way. For that, I mean, if you're in Birmingham, I would definitely say signpost as much as you can to places like, you know, Sifa Fireside, which is based in Digbeth, where they can get their kind of needs met there. But there's also provisions throughout the city. So there's places where, you know, Fido Nido, just around the corner, Cars Lane, where they do like hot food as well. But also if you're kind of passing by, there is a website called StreetLink. And you can just log on there and you can say, you know, you've come across someone who's bedded down, that's rough sleeping, this is their description, this is where they'll be. And the aim there is that someone will do outreach, rough sleepers team, and they'll go out and meet them and just check in with them.
And who's that again?
That's rough sleepers. That's StreetLink.
Because sometimes, like, people aren't sure how they should act either. Because you hear that, well, don't give them no bloody money because they're going to spend it on gear or booze. Yeah. But really, as soon as that pound leaves your hand, it's no longer your pound, is it? And if you want to give it to them, Some people want to go and give them food. Some
Yeah.
people want to go and give them a hot drink. I went with me and my wife went in for a meal the other day, and I said to them, "Could we have food to take?" And I'll go and give it to someone in Brum.
Mm.
So we went and we walked around for a while. Funny enough, we found these guys. Went, "Excuse me, I've got a lamb curry," and he said, "Sorry, mate, I'm a vegan." I thought, "Oh well, touche, you know." God bless you.
Yeah.
But you know, but at least some people rather do that, don't they?
Mm.
Can I give you this?
Yeah.
Some people, a couple of pounds, and I think remember, whether you're ignoring them, whether you're giving them the time of day, it's a human being.
Yeah.
It's someone's child. They've had a life. So treat them as a human being, not as just litter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not something you step over and it's got to be exterminated. That's someone's life. And if you haven't got the confidence to go over, maybe just acknowledge them by smiling.
Mm-hmm.
You know what
Yeah,
I
I
mean?
think a lot of it's media driven, that every homeless person chooses to be homeless, and
Yeah.
or
They're
they're
on a
not
scam.
homeless and they walk around the corner and get in a car and got a big mansion at the end. You know, it's a big media thing,
Yeah.
isn't it? Whereas there probably is that going on. Let's be honest, but it's
And sometimes
no one
when-
chooses to put a duvet down and sleep on the floor. do they, you
Sometimes
know?
when they are leaving and getting into a car, it's not their car. They're working for someone,
Mm.
maybe for drugs, maybe in human traffic. As you say, people aren't choosing that lifestyle, are they?
Mm. I think there's a lot as well. Just talking from personal experience, there's a lot of like if someone's got a mobile phone or they've got trainers on, there's that thing of, oh well, where have they got the trainers
Yeah,
from?
they've
Then?
got a
Where have they
dog.
got the phone
Yeah.
from? And the thing is, especially with the phone, like you need your phone in this day and age,
Yeah.
don't you? Things like, you know, accessing your journal, connecting with your family, like making your doctor's appointments, digital inclusion, that is something that's vital to everybody, including people that are experiencing homelessness, if not more so. Connect them to the right services. So you do find that a lot. There is still that kind of stigma in terms of, you know, what they wear and where they got that from then. So it's challenging those stigmas as well along the way.
Stigmas are, aren't they? Being mental health, in anything. And we get hooked on what we believe is the truth
Yeah.
instead of actually going to the horse's mouth.
Mm.
You know, and as I say, sometimes that bit of kindness, you look hungry, Bert, what do you want?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying I'm going to go and get you a bloody steak sandwich, but here's a bag of crisps or
Yeah. Yeah.
and maybe that pound, maybe that couple of cans or bag of whatever is on might be keeping him alive just enough so we can get better.
Mm. Yeah.
We get better at the right moments, don't we?
Yeah.
We don't get better when people want us to get better. We get better when either we want to or it's the right time to get better.
Yeah. And that's true. It's not one size fits all, is it?
No?
Yeah.
It'd be easily solved if it was, wasn't it?
Have you found like addiction has gone up big around there? Because you know, it was always like heroin or it was crack.
Yeah.
But then there's a lot of spice out there, and there's loads of different variants of different drugs. I ain't got a clue what they are now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They've come like when they're like synthesized drugs, and you know we've changed it so it was when like, the legal drugs were coming out, and then they've biff bash bossed it, and you see sometimes when they're on it, they am like zombies.
Yeah. We do have a lot of substance misuse at the day centre and people that we casework with. We are quite fortunate that we're part of the Homeless Pathway, so we get a lot of information distributed to us. So, you know, if there's this up and coming drug that everyone seems to be talking about, and we do have that kind of knowledge, which has been very beneficial. We are naloxone trained as well, so we do have kind of the equipment that if someone was unfortunate to overdose, that we've got the kind of training and the stuff that we need to help. So yeah, there is that. We do experience that. We do have AA classes, so Alcoholic Anonymous, and NA classes, Narcotics Anonymous. Get my teeth in. So we do have those kind of classes at the centre as well. So it's just kind of informing clients as well. If this is what you're going to do, this is how you're safe. Make sure that you're safe while you're taking those measures.
And I think even something like needle bins, get in place if they can do it, make it as safe as you can for them, and make it safe for the other people around them. So once you've used it, put them here, so there's no danger to someone else. And if you are going to use, have clean needles.
Yeah. It's about helping to educate as well, isn't it? And just saying that obviously these are the support services to help you if and when you choose that you don't want to go down this path anymore. But whilst you are doing that, this is how you're safe, and this is how you can look after yourself.
Look after yourself and others around you.
Yeah.
If these are choices that you're going to make, let's make it as safe as we can. And by shouting and bawling and throwing someone in jail isn't necessarily going to stop them from doing it. This is the path they're going to walk. Let's make it safe.
Yeah.
Or as safe as we can.
For sure.
And if they've got a wound, if they've got something from issues in the veins are all packing in, let's get them seen to.
Yeah.
Let's get them so they're not going to feel like they're going to get in trouble for being poorly.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we overlap the mental health industry. Like sometimes they'll be treated better in prison as they will in an institute. If you think this person hasn't chose to be poorly, he hasn't decided to have schizophrenia or have depression or bipolar. So let's once again treat him as a poorly person instead of a criminal. And even with the jail, let's treat the person. Let's treat why are you reoffending?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel safer in here than you do out there?
Yeah.
And if you do, something's gone terribly wrong.
Yeah. And you come across people that are really institutionalized as well. That's literally all they've ever known. So to kind of, like you mentioned earlier, to then be like, right, you're out then, off you go. It's kind of, it's working with probation. It's working with those services to find out, where this person needs to be and when and what kind of steps they need to take. From care to Borstal to Nick. And that's the only life they've ever had. Yeah. And when any change, from good change to bad change, is frightening, isn't it? And you're thinking, well, it's the best of the devil I know. I feel safe in this cycle. If I change, what becomes of me? Who am I then? Yeah. I mean, how many years have you been working in this kind of industry? So I've been in this role at Sifa Fireside for 2 years now. And then previously to that, I've done a lot of voluntary work. So I volunteered at a day centre for adults with mental health and learning disabilities. And I've also worked, I was in Calais in France with refugees and asylum seekers there. So I've done a lot of voluntary really leading up to this, and went to university and kind of studied international development. So it's always been at the centre of kind of what I wanted to do. I mean, even when I was a kid, I remember we had an abandoned church at the top of our road, and I was like, Mum, we need to campaign. Like, we need to. That's it. It can be a homeless shelter. Write my little posters up like that. That was something that I do remember doing. So, and fortunately, my family as well, we've always been like, everyone's in kind of a similar kind of sector of work. Like my eldest brother supports new dads who might have depression or other kind of mental health issues. And then my mum works at a day centre supporting adults with mental health. So I'm fortunate I've kind of been surrounded by that kind of thing. And that's always what's kind of driven us. But yeah, 2 years in this role.
What was Calais like with the refugees? Actually seeing it firsthand.
It was haunting. It was a really, really harrowing experience. But I was very fortunate. I was there for 6 weeks. And again, kind of similar work in the sense of the actual kind of practical provisions. So we'd donate food, clothing, phones, and then kind of work on more things like, unfortunately, it wasn't housing there. It was kind of like just how to be safe, really, against the police brutality. And how terrible that is, you know what I mean? Yeah.
It's funny that you just said that, like food, shelter, and phones. It's like your phone has become your new water kind of thing. It's your lifeline. It's your tablet. So I can talk to mum back at home. I can now find work. Yeah. I can do, and it's all your things. And God forbid a bit of social. You know what I mean? If you can stare at a kitten for a little bit, it's
yeah. And it's connecting you with people, isn't it? It's connecting you with the outer world and seeing what's going on for everybody else.
And somebody else just brushed over, like saying like the police brutality, was it terrible over there?
Yeah. I didn't know how much I should say.
That's fine.
It was harrowing. It was very difficult to witness.
You don't hear about that though, do you? You kind of just see the boats coming over here and people moaning that the boats are coming over. Yeah. So I didn't know that was going on, to be quite honest. So it's
with them because obviously I was a volunteer, and the thing that they mentioned was, you might get tear gassed while you're here, but if you do, remember you can breathe. That was the kind of advice that I was given, and I had to write a number on my arm and they said that if I get stopped, I should ask for a translator, a lawyer, and a doctor. And the doctor was to prove that I wasn't bruised when I went in. So that was very much the reality of the situation. But I got to come home, and I get to tell this now and be like, this is a reality, guys. So at the time I worked at Asda. Big up Asda Briley Hill, but it was definitely a shock when people were coming in and moaning about the ham that they couldn't get, and I just thought, these people haven't got a home, they've got nothing, and you're moaning because you haven't got your special ham. So it's opened my eyes for sure.
But isn't that the world, And I remember like the other Christmas, the Christmas of the first lockdown. It was all I want for Christmas is just to see my mum. All I want is for all the Dylans to be sat around the dinner table, and we all had that humbleness. We were all going, you know what? The next Christmas, all I want for Christmas is a PS4 and a lamp. And I'm thinking, it was only last year, son, but we have the chance to learn from the lessons, and we just brush them under the carpet, don't we? You know what I mean? I'm thinking,
look, life goes on, doesn't it? And before you know, it's in the past, and it's not in your memory again.
But we've got to have that pause moment to go in. Well, all I wanted 2 years ago, last year, was to see my mum. Now I've got my mum.
Yeah.
Maybe enough of her.
But maybe I don't need the new pair of jeans. Maybe what I've got is enough. Because we're all on the strive to get bigger and better and work our way up the ladder. And I go, well, actually, the step I'm on's quite great at the moment. And just enjoy it. And maybe and think to yourselves now, guys who are listening to this, when you're walking past and you've got a pocket full of shrapnel, that couple of quid can make all the difference.
Yeah.
That couple of quid could be the difference. Yeah. It could be the straw that broke the camel back, and tomorrow they will get better. Or it might just keep them sane for an extra night. It might stop them from doing something they can't come back from.
And I mean, there's on that note as well, there's some really wonderful kind of fundraising things that are coming up, especially for Sifa Fireside. And it's not the kind of, chuck us a tenner. There's kind of varied things. So there's a belly laughs comedy and food festival. So that's coming up in February, I believe. And we did a similar thing last year. So there were 30 gigs over like 28 independent venues, and some of the proceeds went towards Sifa. And that was wonderful because it kind of brought together, everybody was there in that shared moment of comedy, and they can enjoy themselves, but you knew it's kind of going to a good cause. And similarly, we've got also a pop-up shop coming up at the Custard Factory. And it's similar things. So like there's a local artist, there's vintage clothing, there's punks and chancers who've helped us out quite a lot of merch. And it's kind of, you get something directly back from that as well. So it's not just your standard, which is very obviously appreciated, but especially in this day and age, it's quite difficult to part with that sometimes. So if you see to get something back from it, it's a good avenue.
What's a better way of knocking down boundaries than having a laugh and breaking bread?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Having a meal and having a laugh. What a great way to do it. But anything like that, please come back on in February or closer to it.
Yeah.
And come on and tell us all about it. And we'll always emphasise.
Yeah, I presume it's on your website as well.
Yeah, so check out the website.
Just scrolling across the bottom, so if anyone wants to look and find out more of fundraising. And do people fundraise on behalf of you as well? Is it? Yeah. So people can fundraise if they want for them?
There's been different things like sleep outs, and kids have done things with their schools as well. So we've got a wonderful fundraising team, so they take care of all of that. But you can donate, you can volunteer, help out in the kitchen, that kind of thing. There's a lot of things, like you say, it's all on the website and on the social media as well.
Well, we're going to do our Lions whip round as we do every year. So if anyone is clearing out the shed and got toys or baby stuff or household stuff, please bring it up in here. We'll be collecting up until the 13th of December, and they'll be going to charities from We Love Carers to Briley Old Baby Bank to, we'll always find somewhere to give it to. So if you've got any spare clothes, toys, odds and sods, bring them to the club and we're getting a good home. Lydia, thank you ever so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
We want you back on and talk about all the great stuff. And if anyone has got lived experience and they want to come on and tell their story, be a pleasure. Have you got any quotes and sayings that have helped you get through life or from your organisation?
Oh, it's a good question. Be the change you wish to be in this world. I feel like I've paraphrased that, but it's always a good one. Yeah.
That's lovely. Well, guys, until we see each other next week. Oh, we got Dr. Lloyd coming back on. We're going to be talking about prostate cancer because we know it's Movember and something's close to my heart, prostate cancer. So we'll be talking about that next week. So, guys, I want you to take care of yourselves and each other. Ta-ra a bit.
Listen.
And that's a wrap for another show. But if there are any comments or messages that you would like us to read out for our next podcast, please be in touch. There are also lots of different organisations at the bottom of this page, and hopefully they can help you or someone you care about. Please share this to spread the word. Until we talk next time, ta-ra a bit.
Listen.
And that's a wrap for another show. But if there are any comments or messages that you would like us to read out for our next podcast, please be in touch. There are also lots of different organisations at the bottom of this page, and hopefully they can help you or someone you care about. Please share this to spread the word. Until we talk next time, ta-ra a bit.
Listen.